news you can use.
Welcome to another edition of The Scoop, providing you with news we hope you can use every day. Today, I'm Louise Thompson from Tampa Bay Community Network, and with me today is Fanny Lael, who is a professional recruiter with the Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So glad you could be here, especially right now. I think everybody's worried about jobs and so forth. Could you give me a little history and background on Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance and what it does?
Sure. Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance, under that name, has been around for about 5 years now, and previously under different names. Mostly what we do is we connect job candidates with leading employers in the Tampa Bay area, mostly Hillsborough County, everything from job leads to training resources and other job-seeking services.
You're coordinating all of this? Or
Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance, yes, provides these resources.
Okay. And can you describe some of the services that you provide?
Sure. We have training resources, career fairs, in-house career fairs, interviewing prep, resume review, career support services, and job seeking.
Do you, is this funded? I know the old Private Industry Council, the money came from federal government, went down into state, and then was then dispersed to different private industry councils. Does it work like that now?
No, we are our own entity. So yes, we do administer that with state and federal funding.
You do get the federal funding, that's what I'm saying. And then so are you also doing trainings?
We provide resources with training and have in-house training as well.
Okay. So, well, all right. Now, today, we're sitting here with a 10% jobless rate in Hillsborough County, or in Florida, state of Florida, I think is what it is. Do you see any movement on that, or?
We do. We have a lot of different programs funded by stimulus, and we also have a lot of different projects. We do have industries like the medical industry, who's actually growing in this time.
One would think that would be the case, wouldn't it? As we get older, is that the reason, or is it some other reason?
Usually that is the primary driver for that. We are an aging population here in Florida, and to service that, as well as the ancillary support companies that support healthcare, also have that same growth.
So so is there training available then in that field, in various forms of that field?
There is. We have training resources that connect job seekers with in-demand industries, and healthcare being one of them.
So what kind of jobs could they expect to get?
We have everything from certifications in insurance, so those are the support services, medical coding, medical office administration, up to nursing, LPN and RN services as well.
You know, I've read before that while we hear reports on how many people got unemployed or how many are unemployed, that it doesn't, we don't get any feel for how many new jobs got added. Is that?
That's true. A lot of the news that we hear is pretty one-sided. It lets us know that jobs are no longer available or when cuts are made. But new jobs are being created and the market is out there. It's just a little tighter than we're accustomed to.
And are most of the jobs, and I've also heard this many times, and that is that the jobs that are available aren't always in the newspaper.
Correct. Correct. I would definitely support that. It may be that a lot of people are turning to online services, online and automated services, so a lot of it is on their website or on websites like ours, which is employflorida.com.
Or they would have to go to, they'd have to look up who are the employers in this area that I'm in, and then they would have to go to their website, is what you're saying, the name of the employer.
Correct.
So your services are being, you're headquartered in Tampa, but your services are being provided throughout other regions?
We are for Hillsborough County.
Right.
The Hillsborough County is large enough and the demand is large enough that we are dedicated to Hillsborough County alone, but there are 24 regions that the state of Florida is divided into, each providing the same type of resources.
For the whole state of Florida?
For the whole state of Florida.
And to find the one in your neighborhood, what would you have to do if you live in, I don't know, Miami or wherever?
I would recommend going to employflorida.com. You have the resource there available where you can put in your...
Florida?
Yes, employflorida.com.
Okay.
Where you'll be able to put in your zip code and it'll let you know what one-stop center is near you.
And so, okay, and those services provided by each of these 24 regional offices and Tampa Bay's office are provided for free?
Yes.
Say Detroit, which is seeing people who worked in the automotive industry for 20, 30 years are now so displaced. Are we seeing any of that, or that kind of thing where an industry leaves Florida and so now these folks are sort of don't know what to do?
There are some industries that are affected more than others in the Florida market and in Tampa Bay. However, we do work with people that are underemployed or completely unemployed to be able to transition their skills or get retrained in those areas where there's a little more stability and growth.
Is there testing involved in what you do to see, to determine whether someone could go into another field? Is there some kind of career testing?
There's a couple resources that we have available. One of them is a skills assessment as well as a personal assessment that's available online and in our centers. We'll be able to guide you to those. And we also have career managers that work closely with a candidate to determine what are their transferable skills, where do they fit, what would be a good fit for them, and make recommendations.
Because sometimes a person's in one industry the whole time, but they could just be in another one and do the same kinds of things just for something they're not as familiar with.
Correct,
right?
correct. We
and
focus
they may
on
not
those.
realize that. How many people are you serving now in Tampa Bay? Or is there a certain number of people that are coming into the offices all the time? Or
Well, we don't have a number dedicated to that. We have pretty much an open door in terms of who can come in and receive these services. It's really those who are either underemployed looking for a new position or those that have lost their positions and are seeking resources.
do they find out about you through unemployment, or?
Both, yes. Through unemployment, through word of mouth, through other publications that we are part of, and through our website.
And maybe through this show.
And through this show.
Maybe you can get a lot more people interested in finding out about it. So you were talking about medical industry being one of the ones that is growing. That's the primary one growing?
The primary one growing.
What are others, do you know?
Private sector education is another. It slows down around this time. It's pretty much a seasonal slowdown because it is June, but starting August and throughout the year, education and supporting education are those that
Private, when you say private industry education, you mean like corporate
universities,
training
yes,
organizations?
Yes, corporate training organizations, continuing education, universities, those type of organizations.
Because people who are out of work are now going into thinking, well, I might as well stay in school.
I might as well stay in school, I might as well sharpen up my skills, or maybe learn something new that has a little bit more growth attached to it.
Okay, well, I want to hear more about the services that you provide. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a minute. Stay tuned. Thank you. Welcome back to The Scoop. We're talking today with Fanny Lael, who's a professional recruiter with the Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance. I'm Louise Thompson with Tampa Bay Community Network. Fanny, can you tell me about some tips about creating resumes now? I mean, it's been a long time since I created a resume, so I'm not sure what's out there.
There's a couple things that we need to keep in mind and have to focus on, one of which is to have the resume be a reflection of what you offer to the position that you're applying for. That one resume, one general resume, is no longer as competitive as it should be with the market that we have today.
You need a different one for each?
For each one, for each one.
Okay.
Or having a general one where you take out the sections that are more applicable to the position that you are applying for is definitely important. You need to speak directly to the position and the value that you would add to that position specifically. A couple ways that you can do that is to highlight the skills that you see that they are using to describe the position that are required as part of the position, and have that be part of the resume. Having achievements listed, not just the responsibilities of what you did, but also some of the things that you were able to accomplish in those positions.
You mean numerically and so forth, like as a measurement?
As a measurement, an impact.
So if I increase sales, I shouldn't say increase sales 30%, or put some number on it, or value.
If it's something that is that can be value added. For example, if I do a new filing system and it cuts down on the time that we take in searching for a specific item of information, that saves us time and money, and I'm able to say, well, I've implemented a new system that resulted in. So having those type of measurements, that type of impact delineated is very important.
What about the fact that now resumes are, online, they're searchable, and do you need to use keywords, or should you avoid certain words, or Is there anything out there now about that?
What I would do is focus on what the company looks for. A lot of that is given away in terms of what how they describe the position. If they say, teamwork instead of team-oriented, make sure that you can put teamwork in your resume, in the words that they use. So that is one of the ways where, yes, you're right, there are screenings that a lot of employers have adopted, sort of automated that
They
application
have
system.
software where
and
they
software
just
that picks out
dumps
keywords.
it or grabs it or something,
Correct.
right?
What's great about that is that there's really no secret. The employer gives you that information as part of the job description or the job posting.
So at the very least, you can use the words they used or use the
Absolutely.
synonym for the words they used, so in case they
Yes.
search on that, on a synonym.
Yes, because a lot of those programs just take that job posting and work from there. And you never know who is the first screener of that resume. A lot of them aren't the hiring manager. They might not know a lot of the technical terms, but they know the terms that are used in that job posting. So that's why I would recommend going back to that. If that's unclear or too general or too vague, there's always the option of going to that company's website. Most companies have those now, and you can take a look at their tone, their language, the words that they use in their vision, in their mission, and incorporate that into your resume.
You really have to pay good, close attention, is what you're saying.
Just pay a little more
You
attention.
just throwing things out.
Right.
I remember when I ran my own business and for 20 years, a marketing advertising company, I would often get a cover letter that said, "Dear Mr. Thompson."
Right.
And I think, well, if
Exactly.
you just throw that over my shoulder, why in the world would they think, just automatically assume that the CEO of the company was a male? And I don't want that person.
Right. And
they didn't even check. They don't know anything about who's running the show here,
Right.
So those kinds of things are very well, you're just sending them out.
You're just sending them out instead of actually demonstrating that you're being purposeful in applying to this position.
Like you really care about
Like you
that
really
job.
care.
Yeah, because you want to hire people who really do care about what you do and buy into whatever that product or service is that you're providing. Any other tips on resumes?
It would be taking that extra step and finding out the right person and making sure you're speaking to that. It's taking the extra step to tailor it.
Yeah, and I think what people don't look at that's really important is the idea that, yes, this takes a lot of time. Maybe it'll take me an extra hour to recast this resume that I've had this generic one made, but now it's going to take me an hour or two or three. But it could be worth $30, $40, $50, $100,000.
In the long
So
run,
what the
yes.
heck is an hour going to be? What about networking?
Networking is fundamental in terms of the job search today. The jobs are out there, it's just a little more competitive, and networking gives you a competitive edge. It's getting to know the people in those organizations, getting firsthand knowledge from people that do business directly or indirectly with that organization, and being able to introduce yourself to them in a different way that's not just through an online submissions way.
So doing something like I've gotten calls like this, calling up someone who's either someone you met before or a friend of your dad's or mom's or something like that, and saying, I'm not looking for a job, I do want to get in your field, and I'd just like to spend a few minutes with you trying to explore that.
It makes a great impact. I work with a lot of professional candidates where that type of activity is what leads to more job placements than just sending out general letters. It's having that face-to-face time to make your impression and make that connection.
And also, say you're not looking for a job sometimes, because that is the way to get in the door and find out more about an industry and
Correct.
really learn what's going on, and perhaps they'll give you some connection into other people who they know that are, who are looking.
What you want to do is leave it open for their help. Because once you say, I'm looking for a job with your organization, if they don't have it, they'll just simply say, well, we don't have any openings. And that's the end of your conversation and your opportunity to really establish a relationship. When that person can help you, even though they don't have openings, lead you in the right path or direction.
So you're saying don't ask a question for which you can get a no.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
I
Just
got
make
you.
the FaceTime, establish that relationship, because that's going to really make a greater impact.
Any other networking tips?
Is talk to everyone and make sure that you have a goal in mind and make sure that they know what your goal is. Because a lot of times I get a lot of candidates who just say, well, I'm just looking for anything, which makes it a little more difficult. So having to help that person or direct that person, having a goal, having a purpose in mind for contacting that person.
I had a lot of friends who had high-level jobs and then moved down to Florida from New York and the north. And they were having a hard time getting a job and actually had to lower what they wrote on their resume, because I think the person they were interviewing with, they would be more competent than the boss.
I
Have you seen
understand.
any of that? Or,
What I have seen is people with very diverse backgrounds
yes.
having to cut out some of their major accomplishments because it does not fit or speak to that position.
I want to hear more about the training that could be provided too. But we have to take a short break. We'll be back in just a minute. Thank you. Welcome back to The Scoop. Today we're talking with Fanny Lael, who is a professional recruiter with Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance, and I'm Louise Thompson, the Executive Director of Tampa Bay Community Network, where you can get to learn how to put TV programming on. Go to our website, tbcn.org, and learn more. Fanny, over at the Workforce Alliance, you have some training programs or access to training programs. Can you elaborate on those?
Sure. We have training resources for careers that are on demand. We have a long list of those and a long list of our local training vendors that are resources for that type of certification or training or education.
Do we have a lot of training vendors in our area?
We do. We have many, and it would really depend on what the candidate is needing or what the job seeker is needing.
Can you give me some kind of broad stroke of what kind of training you'd find out? That you talked about medical and they're being arranged, peripheral billing clerks and things like that, but also, I guess, certified nursing aides and nurses and like that. But what are some of these other training schools that are available?
Well, based on labor market information, we are given a generated list of things that are high demand occupations, and that's what we do training on. Things like IT, network engineering, things that are either IT related, medical related, education. Those are depending on what the occupations are and the projected growth between now and 2016.
And the biggest growth we're going to see, medical and IT?
Yes.
Or those two?
Yes.
Any more?
There are, depending on the region that you are in, but I would definitely recommend going to see or meet with one of our career managers to discuss that further.
Okay, so you're talking about here locally, it would be IT and pretty much, or Hillsborough County.
Right. Those are the ones that I could tell off the top of my head, but a lot of them are more, there are more available depending on your skill set and what your interests
Well,
are.
you know, when things are in recession, somebody always does well, you know,
Right.
from that, whatever it is they're doing, and people have to kind of really think that out, or find some research out there that'll tell them what it is.
Right, and we have a lot of them available on our website, which is employflorida.com, as well with our every one of our centers. We have 3 in Hillsborough County. One is in North Tampa, the other in Plant City and Brandon, where we have career managers that will sit down one-on-one and discuss what are those options.
And then you're here downtown too? Or no?
We have a corporate office close to downtown, but
Okay.
it's in North Tampa.
Okay. Okay, so, and you also run from time to time job fairs or professional expos or this kind of thing?
We do. We have a lot of events, both external, like the one that we're having coming up, and then another like our Career Expo that is in the spring. But we also have a lot of in-house recruitment events or career fairs where we bring in a certain number of employers, or different occupation focused, and we have those in one of our centers.
And how many, are a lot of employers coming out to these events?
They are, because what they're finding is that because it's an employer's market, they can really have their pick of the right candidate, and they're taking their time to do that. And they're taking advantage of resources like ours that are of no cost to them to really maximize their exposure to candidates.
So I suppose some companies may have let go of a certain group of people, department, and then have to reorganize, or maybe they did that because their product or service isn't going in this market, and they may still, even though they've laid off people, they may need other people who can fill different kinds of jobs that they will have.
Correct. For a lot of their needs, there are different things that have resulted in some of their cuts. Maybe a traditional position is no longer available, but a new one based on the need of the company has changed, and that's where they're still hiring. It's just a little bit more of a competitive market.
So are you seeing people come to these fairs, that employers coming to these fairs that have that are small companies as well as what we would expect, like a large utility company or the school system, which is, I think, our largest employer here in this area, correct?
We do, that's correct. We have small proprietorships that have maybe 20 employees that are looking for another, and we have larger organizations that also make it out to our events.
I often wonder in markets like this whether if you can't get a job, you can't figure out how to do that in your field, whether an alternative might be to create it.
We have seen some candidates that do that, yes, and we do have resources available to make that assessment if they have skills that they can transfer into a new profession or a new occupation.
So are there entrepreneurship programs available to them where they could get the skills? I remember Small Business Administration would have classes, the Small Development Center, for example, on how to get financing and those kind of things. Do you send them over to that?
We do have that information available, but we focus more on the candidate that's seeking their next position. So we focus on things like software that are very much used and readily used, so Microsoft, Excel type of courses. We have interviewing skills courses, online job search, resume review, interview skills, and those are what we focus on.
Interview skills. Can you give me a couple of quick tips on that, and the viewers that are watching
On the
this?
interviews, absolutely. For interviews, it is very important that you focus on not just your skills, but your accomplishments. It's very much a selling type of process. You're making your sales pitch. So it's putting yourself in the best light, doing research of the person that you are interviewing with or the company you're interviewing with, and really showing them the value of them hiring you above the next person that might be also considered for that position.
You have a list of do's and don'ts?
We do have a list of do's and don'ts, and we have those resources available at every one of our centers, as well as mock interview coaching, as well as the courses that we provide.
And some of those typical questions that you might be asked are also included?
Correct.
Like, what's your strength, what's your weakness, those kind of questions?
We walk through a lot of the typical questions and some of the best ways to answer and some of the things to avoid.
We only got a minute left, as it turns out. Is there something I left out that you want to make sure the viewers know?
I want to make sure that the viewers know that these are available in their respective counties. So even if they're not in Hillsborough County, there's a way for them to go on to employflorida.com and look for the area that's near them. Also in Tampa, we have those 3 locations with career managers that are ready to help.
Okay, and last but not least, how are you funded?
How are we funded? Through state and local as well as federal.
Is there more money coming down because of the recovery plans and stimulus plans for
Yes, there
this?
are. Yes.
And so so we're being able to service as many people as we need?
Absolutely. That's our focus.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
News you can use.